Over the last couple of weeks, I've been pretty worried about one thing, but it kind of relates to a couple of things that I'm working on. And that's really what's been going on with tech stocks in the public stock market.
From where I'm sitting in Silicon Valley, this is the worst environment that I've seen since the dot-com crash.
There's two things that it's really affecting. The first is that I'm building a coaching business that helps people find jobs in tech. And so obviously tech companies struggling in some ways can affect that. And then the second thing is I'm a venture partner for an investing firm in Canada and also have my own private investments. And so understanding what's happening in the venture capital market, which kind of feels the downward trickle of what happens in the public markets. So why is this happening? I think my best explanation, which, the amount of stimulus that happened over the last 2 years, especially in the US and more broadly around the world, really drove up a lot of asset prices, but I'd say disproportionately drove up high growth tech stocks. And so some of that is just coming off of that sugar high. The party is over, and maybe this is the hangover after the stimulus of COVID. And some of these things are just normalizing of what happened before. There's two main resources that I found helpful. The first clip I'm going to share here is with a guy, Bill Gurley, who's a famous venture capitalist here in Silicon Valley. And he talks about why this is happening in venture capital.
Low barriers to entry, but you have very high barriers to exit. And so he felt that it was just systematically set up to rise and crash, rise and crash. It doesn't happen like a sine curve, which is what we all imagine when we think of a cyclical business. It's more like a sawtooth. Risk on is a very slow process, and it's reflexive, so it grows and grows and grows and grows. And then risk off tends to be very abrupt.
For founders, I'll link an article below from Y Combinator that I think provided the best advice. The second one is an interview with Bernake, who used to be the head of the Federal Reserve, I think in the 2008 era. And the context he provides that I found really helpful was for pivoters who are considering moving into a job, this context, and that the unemployment rate right now is extremely low, at least in the US context. It's like 3.4%. There's 11 million job openings in the US. And although there may be layoffs and kind of a somewhat of a downturn, maybe a recession that's on the horizon, the job market is actually never been better in the US.
Argue that we are beyond full employment. We're not at full employment. We are at a point where employers can't find workers, where there's 2 jobs available for every unemployed person. And so his argument is that we could cool things down a bit, raise the unemployment rate a little bit, reduce that ratio of vacancies to unemployed persons, maybe to 1-to-1, let's say.
And so I think that's helpful. Like maybe there's actually too many open jobs, and some of this correction will help normalize the talent imbalance.
I and quit in conjunction together, i.e. I quit.
For pivoters, I still think it is the best time in a long time to find a job, and even in tech. It may require a little bit more work. Companies, I think, will be a little bit more strict, and so you'll need to be more targeted, maybe sharpen your pencil a little bit more. But I think there's a lot of opportunities out there, and I would just keep that context. Maybe there's not 5 open positions for you, maybe there's 2. I still encourage you to make the leap, but to know that it may take a little bit more effort in this context. So I hope that's helpful. I look forward to your feedback in the comments below.